Glory, hallelujah, since I laid my burden down to live with Jesus, and I laid my burden down. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Somebody off key,
Good morning.
Good morning.
Again, here we are doing what we've been doing all the time, teaching God's word. As we begin this lesson, continue to look out what it was last week. We saw that they had been released from the exile after 70 years in captivity because they went against what God said. Moses has told them if they do it, they would be punished. And look what happened. Showed up, they were punished. And then we looked at God sent someone. After 7 years, there comes Israel. Now, there was two things that happened during that time. First, they came and rebuilt the temple. Second, they sent Israel, and he tried to restore the belief in God. Now, here we are today talking about Nehemiah, that third person. What Nehemiah going to do, he going to build the wall. Look what we have now. All of this took place because of people's turn away from God. Being stubborn, didn't believe in what God said. He told them that. And King Nebuchadnezzar ruled 40 years, and over that, he destroyed Jerusalem. Now they got to come back and rebuild what had happened there. When I looked at that and thought about that and began to think about Nehemiah, then I said, Nehemiah and Noah had something in common. What did they have in common? They both built something for God. Noah, he built the wall. The ark. Nehemiah, he built the wall. But look what happened. Neither one of them was professional carpenters. You see how God used them to do his will. Isn't that something? He took both of them to use his will. And as I continued to study over Nehemiah, I looked at it and I saw Nehemiah had something in common with a lot of people. First, he had something in common with Ezra. Then he had something in common with some more people down the line. What he had in common with Ezra, that Nehemiah was a leader. In order to be a leader, you must have a vision. And to have that vision, you got to let God lead you. So what Nehemiah did, he did the same thing that Ezra done. He prayed. You remember that? Last week when Ezra, we got the word, he prayed. So he prayed for 3 days when he wouldn't take no food. He fasted, getting the word from God. So what did Nehemiah do? He did the same thing. He prayed. A good leader have to have a vision. A good leader believe in God. A good leader trust God. A good leader have faith in God. You know, we have a lot of people call themselves leaders, and look what happened. Every time you call yourself leader and God not in the plan, it always sinks. Look at these people right now. All of those people had God in the plan. And I continue to study about Nehemiah. Now it said that if you think about Nehemiah, it said it was written by the book of Ezra. So I looked at that and I thought about some numbers. You know, I love numbers, so numbers come in my mind. Now, if he written that, Ezra written that, that means he written first and second Chronicle. He written Ezra, then he written Nehemiah. But then some theologians say that Nehemiah written, but he was afraid to put his name to it. So they gave credit to Ezra. Now, as we look at this lesson today, and we get into it, then we look at that subject where it says, initiating renewal. He didn't only initiate it, he started and he finished it. When you say that renewal means to restore, rebuild, he did it. Nehemiah did it because he followed what God told him to do. Now, I didn't stop there. I went just a little further on that, and I looked at the same king, the king attachment. That was the same king that Ezra got permission to travel. Here comes Nehemiah getting the same permission from that same king. Then you know it's something else that drove to my mind that I thought about. When Ezra began to travel, he got a letter. When Nehemiah began to travel, he got a letter. So I said, now look, something about those letters they get. You know, all through the Bible, people got letters. Sometimes there were good letters, sometimes there were bad letters. So I began to think again. I said, look at old David. Old David sent a letter. What letter did David send? He sent a letter to put you right on the front line. That was a letter. Deacon said that was a bad letter. But then I look at Solomon got a letter. Huram sent Solomon a letter and told Solomon he needs to build the temple for the Lord. That's a letter. You know, I began to think about all these letters there. So then I jumped to the New Testament and we saw what Paul did. It said Paul got a letter. Then Paul turned around and read 13 letters. Look at that. But that wasn't all. I had to go to the last book of the Bible. And who was that last book of the Bible? John. John read 7 letters to the churches. Look how letters take place. You know, in our day, we get letters. Sometimes you get a letter that's good. Let me see. You get a letter from the IRS and said, you got some money coming back. Now, that's a good letter.
Oh, we.
And then you get a letter from the IRS saying that what? You owe him.
Oh,
So
that's the one
that's not a good letter. So we get some good letters, we got some bad letters. In the Bible, they gave some good letters, they gave some bad letters. Then look at her. Oh, Nehemiah. Then I continue to read that. As I continue to study on Nehemiah, I had to do a little more studying to find out something more about Nehemiah. So as I look into Nehemiah, we saw, if you read about that Nehemiah's brother came to him and he asked him after 20 years, how was things going? And what did he tell him? Not so well, brother. So the first thing Nehemiah did, he fell on his knees and he prayed. He didn't pray for himself. He prayed for the nation because the nation had did exactly what God told them not to do. They did. So Nehemiah prayed. Not only not that, but Nehemiah prayed and he fell down. He prayed for 4 days. After 4 days he prayed, he didn't get an answer. So did he stop? He didn't stop. He kept on. And then, this was good about how God worked. After 4 months, look how God worked on his own time. He never, but he always on time. 4 months, he got an answer. Who did he get the answer through? He got the answer through, not him, but he sent it through the king. Now, Nehemiah was a cupbearer. You know what a cupbearer is. We know what a cupbearer is. Do you know what it is? Oh, man, you asked me that. A cupbearer was a person that takes the wine for the king. Look at here. This man was the king's right hand. So if the wine was poisoned, what would happen to the cupbearer? He would die. So here's the king's right hand man. He was the tester. He had to test the wine. Now he coming to the king and talking to the king, but the king said, now I see something wrong when I look at your face. Something on your face. Then he asked the king, the king said, what's wrong? He said, my peoples, they have went against what God taught you. And I want to go and build this wall. So here is the cupbearer, the man, right-hand man to the king, that the king could have released. And who working out? Who was doing this work? God worked through the king. He answered his prayer, but he didn't answer when he wanted to. He answered when God got ready. So what did that tell me? God is an on-time God. He does things on his time, not our time. And that was his time, he came through the king. Not only that, but when we read about Nehemiah, he got so good that he made Nehemiah a governor. Look at him. This man was a cupbearer. This man was the first next to the king, but he made him a governor. And not only that, he gave him a letter to go. Here we go. To go and build this wall. Could you believe that? I'm letting my right-hand man go. But who was working on that thing? God was working. God worked through somebody else to get his message across. He worked through the king to get to Nehemiah to let him do what he asked for. Now, as we get into this lesson, it says he prayed 4 days. He got an answer 4 months later. He started. It took him 3 months to get there. Look at the numbers. 4, 4, 3. He prayed once he got there. Now we're going to get into this lesson. Keep up with those numbers because, I kind of love numbers and all this come into play with what Nehemiah did. The first thing he says, the first topic we got right here, reviewing the situation. In order to do something, you don't need to make hasty decisions. You need to kind of scope out what goes on to see what you need to do. That's what he done. Reviewed the situation. God gave him time. He didn't come when he wanted. God come when he wanted. Right here, when Nehemiah got there, he reviewed the situation. What did he do? Let's see what he does. Maria, first part.
So I came to Jerusalem and was there 3 days. And I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon.
All right then. Here he come. He went in there, what? 3 days he arrived. Didn't tell nobody that he was there. Now, what I like about this thing here, sometimes it's best to keep things to yourself. Because when you tell others, they gonna tell somebody. And that somebody gonna tell the next somebody. So when you keep it to yourself, just you and God, and let God handle, things gonna be just like it's supposed to. Look what he did. He stayed there 3 days. Nobody knew he was there. And then, after 3 days, he said that he arose at night. Look what time he went. And began to go and scout this thing. Now, as he scouted this thing, he was making a plan what he was going to do. If you remember, this wall was completely tore down. Nebuchadnezzar had destroyed this whole thing. So he got up. He didn't let nobody know what he was going to do. Because if you read later on in this lesson, you're going to see the reason why he kept it to himself. That was a good thing to do. Now, as you read about that thing, when it said that, as he kept on looking, then he said he rose this beast. And I had to do a little study about that beast. You know what that beast was. Now, this man, Nehemiah, Nehemiah could have got everything he wanted. But what he wanted? He didn't want a fancy horse. Wonder why he didn't want a fancy horse? What's the reason he didn't want a fancy horse? I hear somebody talk to him. He didn't want to draw attention. And what did he rode on? That horse was a donkey. Isn't that something? A donkey. That beast that he rode on was a donkey. When you read about a donkey, it says, what? I know it. And when I looked at that, I jumped into the New Testament. When Mary rode, what did Mary ride? A donkey. Jesus, when he went into the city, what did Jesus ride? A donkey. Look at here. That's not making attention. Coming as humble, a donkey. Almost you get. He didn't want no fancy stuff. That's how he rode in. Now, when you read right there, he said when he got there, this place was in such a bad situation, his donkey couldn't even get in. So what did Nehemiah do? He rode around the circle in the village, trying to see what needed to be done. Nobody knew his plan, but him, God, plus the king. Because he had asked the king and told the king what he was doing. But nobody else knew. Not even the people with him knew what he was doing. That's why I said, keep something to yourself. Don't let everybody know all your business. Right? Everybody gonna tell. Here we go. I'm gonna tell you this, Deacon Lionel, but don't you tell nobody. What happened there? Deacon Lionel will tell his friend, I'm gonna tell you, but don't you tell nobody. And the boys get out, everybody know your business. We'll be like, I'm not, he said, we'll not telling everybody. But, that's what happens when you do that. So keep it to yourself, and that's what Nehemiah done. Now, as we read the next part, come on, sister, tell us what happened.
And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, into the dung court, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire.
Look at Nehemiah. He telling what he done. He went out at night, then he went through the valley. I've been looking at that word as he went through the valley. Now, there was a lot of stuff in that valley. When he went through that valley there and looked at that gate there, I saw some major things. It said the first thing about in that valley, there was a lot of death out in that valley. You know, when you went through that valley and looked through the gate, there was a lot of death there. Then the second thing about that valley said God had set hailstorm in there and killed somebody in that same valley that he went through. But then I looked again and saw something else about that valley there. That valley led to a place called the refuge. And you know what a camp was refugees for? When a person get in trouble, they would go that place and stay till their trial come. So that was a refugees camp. All that was through that gate in that valley. But then I didn't stop right there. When you look at that valley, something else happened to that valley. So when they carried Jesus through Jerusalem, that was out there. To Calvary, he went through that gate. You know, it's something about that valley, that gate, that all connected right there that I just fascinated by when I got a chance to read about that valley there. And he said, he saw that. Then he saw on one side, he saw the dragon whale. Now, what was that? That was a whale that has like a dragon, that water was poured out of his mouth. That was on one side of the city. On the other side of the city was the gate. Look there. And then it said a dawn port. What was that? That was the gate, the main entrance that they come through. They had to come this way here. Look at Nehemiah, how he scouted things out. He making in his mind what he needs to do, because all this was destroyed. So if it was destroyed, I got to rebuild. That's what Nehemiah comes. He comes to rebuild that wall. Then the next one, what does it say, sister?
Then I went on to the gate of the fountain into the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast that was under me to pass.
Go ahead.
Then went I up in the night by the brook and viewed the wall and turned back and entered by the gate of the valley and so returned.
So he went back, he returned. Look here. He saw it, he went back. What was he doing? He was getting it in his mind. He was making up a what? A plan. He didn't just go in and attack. He didn't go in and build that wall. He made it a plan to see what he had to do. Get it in his mind. You know, we do things like microwave, we're going to do things instant. But nothing we saw him was instant done. Everything was planned out. So you need to make a plan what you're going to do. And look what he did. He made a plan. And then what 16 tells us?
And the rulers knew not whither I went or what I did, neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor to the priests, nor to the nobles, nor to the rulers, nor to the rest that did the work.
Nobody knew what he was doing. Here comes somebody in the town, a stranger. Nobody knew what he was doing. He wouldn't tell anybody what he was doing. He wouldn't tell the nobles. He wouldn't tell the priest. He kept it to himself. He didn't even tell the people he was traveling with what he was going to do. He knew what he was going to do. God knew first what he was going to do. The king knew what he was going to do. Nobody else knew what he was going to do. So there he goes right there, following through what God asked him to do. Look what happened there. Isn't that something? First we had the temple. Then we had to bring the people back to God. Now we have somebody that's going to build the wall. Nehemiah. I just thought that was real fascinating about things that happened there. 20 years after they had come out of exile, there comes Nehemiah building this wall. Getting ready to build one. And look what happened there. He did it. Because nobody knew what he was going to do except Nehemiah. Keep things to yourself. And there's a question that follows. Anybody else have something to say? As I read about Nehemiah, you know, I kind of bounced stuff off my wife and asked her about it. You know, she just said, I don't know anything. I don't understand it. But you got to read it to find out what goes on about anything about these folks in the Bible. The more I read about these people, the more I learn about them. And there's a question from that. It says, why is planning such a key component of success? Why is that? Why is planning? Why do we need to plan?
So you get everything you need to have
You get everything you need to complete what you're doing? No. Why is planning? Anything you do, you need to have a plan for it. You don't go into anything blindfold. If he had went in there without a plan, do you think it would have been successful? No. He went in with a plan. Once he got there, he had to plan out what needs to be done. So it wasn't one of them things that I'm going to go in, I'm riding in, I'm going to build the wall. You need to look and see what's been done. Because this place here was already destroyed. So he had to go in and figure out what he needed to do. All this was done. God had a plan. Let's see. He built the heaven and earth. He built the whole world. Each day, he did something. Didn't do it. So what was that? That was a plan. God could have did it all at once. But what he did, he had a plan to do it. You know, God had a plan. Not only that, but with God's plan, there's a purpose. Nehemiah had a plan. Nehemiah had a purpose. What was his plan? To build the wall. What was his purpose? To get from God to do, to build a wall there. So you have to have a plan. You have to have a purpose to do something in life. Life is more than just getting up and walking around. You need to be able to do the same thing. Have a plan what you're going to do. They always told us in school, when you read the mission statement. What is a mission statement? The mission statement is what the school going to do. But what you do, you need to have a vision to get to where you're going. How many people that you know have a vision? Hey, I see a few hands that got a vision. Well, you should have a vision. When you go back and look at this church, was that a vision? Did he have a plan? I believe he did. Did he get it from God? I believe he did. Because the first thing you need to do, what do you need to do first? Everything we read about, what do these people do first? They pray. You pray and put God first. When you put God first and follow God's plan, you will always succeed. Not that it's always going to be easy, but you will succeed. But the failure is that when you don't put God first, all those kings that I read about within God, what did they all do? They all failed because they did not put God first. God don't want to be second in your life. God want to be first in your life. When you put him first, everything gonna come. Not like you want to, but it's gonna come. Remember what we're talking about? God has a plan. And you follow what God say there. That's what I say about having a plan to be successful. You can have a plan and be a failure, but that's not God's plan. You need to have God's plan. So everybody's so quiet this morning, I guess it's good to us. Here's the next part. The next part says, challenge the people. You got to challenge the people. In order to challenge the people, I told you, our leader needs to be a motivator. How do you motivate people to follow you? You start off first. You start by putting yourself, getting involved first. You start by letting people believe in you. What happened there? Nehemiah, who did he believe in? He believed in God. When you believe in God, then people will believe in you because you have to trust God. You have to have faith in God. When you got that faith, the people don't see that and they're going to follow you. Nehemiah was one of those leaders that we saw right here. The next part says, all right?
Then said I unto them, Ye see the distress that we are in, how Jerusalem lieth waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach.
Look what he said. What he said. Then said I unto thee, ye see the distress that who? The word is we. We. He put himself involved. Here he comes. It says about 1,600 miles from where he come from Persia to Jerusalem, about 1,600 miles, and he put himself involved. He said, let us, we. So, you know, if I'm a leader, the first thing I need to do is do what? Lead. So I'm going to be up front. I'm not going to say, you all, we need to build a church and go ahead. Is that a leader? No. Our leader going to do what he's supposed to be doing. We're going to do this here together. If I tell my son, I said, son, we're going to mow the yard. Who ended up mowing the yard? He mowed the yard. What did I do? Nothing. So you got to get involved. That makes sense now? Okay, when I said we, but that wasn't a we, that was who? That was him. So our good leader, you know, all of us can be a good leader. Our parents can be a good leader. That's what good leaders do. Good leaders, they come out front. Good leaders not from behind. You don't lead from behind, you lead from the front. You let people see what you're doing. That's what leaders do. All right? That's what I got on that verse right there. The next one.
Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was good upon me, as also of the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work.
Now here's the problem. He had to motivate the people to let them get involved. What did he tell them? He told them the thing that the king had done for him. First thing the king done. What did the king do? He let him win. You my cupbearer, but you can go. The king now, this is one of the toughest king of the king, Artaxerxes was the king of the mightiest king of this land. He had more power than anybody. And he let this man go. So if he go, I have to test the wine. Because this man was his cupbearer. He tested the wine and he let him win. Isn't that something? Then not only that, he said, now, I prayed to God. He told the folks what he done. I prayed to God. And God gave me permission. Not when I wanted to, but it took 4 months. He gave it to me. Look how good God was. Not only that, but when I went to the king and told the king what I was doing, he gave me all the material I needed. Look how God is working on this man. He went there and he gave everything he needed, all the material he needed, and gave him people to go with him to help build this wall. So God was still working, and he was telling these people right here, all we got to do is what? Trust in God. And what did they do? They trust God and they trust Nehemiah. Because Nehemiah had motivated these people and explained to these people that how good God was. God gave him everything he needed through somebody else to go and build this wall. We still saw what happened there. And here from God is still working. All right? What's the next one say? And then, that's a question. Nobody have something to say? Wow. But here's the other question. The other question says, which of Nehemiah's leadership strategies have you seen other leaders implement with success? Have you seen leaders, so-called leaders, let's say leaders, we don't take the so-called out. Have you seen leaders been successful? What does a good leader do? Deacon said a good leader pray first. What else does a good leader do to be successful? Plan. What else does a good leader do to be successful? Lead. What else does a good leader do? He motivates. You have to motivate people to do something. A sorry leader not going to motivate. Everything we just said falls back on leadership. A good leader. Then it also said that not only was he a good leader, he stayed there 12 years in a time of crisis. Did you know he's not even paid? Now, isn't that a leader? Think about it. We went through some this past year that was tough. We went through some crisis. My understanding, our leader, can I say it? He didn't get paid. What's a leader? He went through that too. Now, let's think about some of the other leaders. They got paid. Do you call them a leader? That's not a leader. What do you do in time of crisis? You lead. You don't follow. You lead. A good leader. Anybody can be a leader, but anybody cannot be a good leader. But what does a good leader do? He gonna make sacrifice. What's a sacrifice? I know I need a life. That's okay. God gonna do what? God gonna bless me if I keep on doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's what you call what? A good leader. We have leaders. Good leaders gonna sacrifice. Good leaders gonna motivate people to be just like them. I want to be like somebody better than me. I want to be a leader that can lead, not a leader that's following. This is what this meant. Nehemiah was a leader. Yes, sir, Richard.
Hey, man, brother teacher, I want to put this in our conversation. When you talk about qualities that leaders possess, this one guy I saw, he never got above the people. He always stayed down to earth. And if you stay down to earth, people can relate to you. Mm-hmm. Don't pretend like you've never made mistakes, like you're superhuman. Just be down to earth. And if you're down to earth, people can relate to you. And they appreciate it. instead of you trying to present yourself to be something that you're not.
Let God lead you. Stay where you are. But you know, most of us, if we get some kind of authority, what happens? We get the big head dignity. It goes our head. Think about this man, Nehemiah. He had all the power he had. He had a letter that he go through the countryside. Nobody would mess with him. Now, think about me. If I was Nehemiah, the governor give me a letter so I can do what I want to do. What would I do? Do what I want to do. Whatever it is. Because I got the big head to do what I want to do. But that's what a good leader are do. A good leader needs to, what he says, you need to stay humble people. You can stay humble people and you have more that way than coming in doing the big head. I'm going to tell you what to do because there's nobody bigger than me. Yes, it is. Who is bigger than you? God is greater than you and bigger. So remember, leaders. We talking about leaders. That's what Nehemiah was. He was a governor, he was a builder, and he was a leader. He had a vision. And here's the last part of it. Thank you. It says, denounce opposition. Now, this is the part. You got to denounce. What happened here? Who was his most critical people there? Who hates this man more than anybody else? What is it? Who were they?
Opposers of what Nehemiah was doing. Opposers of the rebuilding.
Say it again, hey, Bridget.
Opposers of what Nehemiah was doing. Opposers of the restoration and rebuilding of the wall.
All right. And listen. Now, he mentioned those people there. We're going to come back and see about those. Thank you, Bridget. What we got right here? Number 19.
But when the Sanballat the Hornite and Tobiah the servant, the Ammonite and the Geshem and Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, what is this thing that ye do? Will ye rebel against the king?
Now, who was that he just told them? They were those good old Samaritans. Look at the Samaritans. They were Samaritans. And they always had a beef against God. The Samaritans. Who was the Samaritan? They were half-breed. Remember? They was Jews too, but when they got the mix in there, they was a half-breed. So they was against God. Then when you think about what happened, I jumped over into the New Testament. Who was the woman at the well? Who she was? A Samaritan. Who didn't like that woman? The Jews, because they felt the Samaritan was no good people. The Samaritan here began to have some power. Look at the power they had. They fought against everything that he's done. They didn't want them to build that wall. Why? Because they had power. Then when you read about that, it said the Samaritan folk, what they had those people captive again. They had them captive. They had the folks, took the children from them, they made them work. These are the same folks as Samaritan folks. So what they have, they don't want him to build that wall. Because if they build the wall, they can get in that wall. So they didn't want that to happen. Oh, Samaritan, those three right there. Then what the last verse tells us about that?
Then answered I them and said unto them, the God of heaven, he will prosper us. Therefore we his servants will arise and build, but ye have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem.
If you remember last week, when they left, they want to get involved. Remember? They asked Jerusalem, we want to get involved. What he told them? You not going to get involved in him. Because he already knew what they're going to do. This week you see the same thing. They want to get involved again. But what did Nehemiah told them? You're not going to do it. You're not going to stop progress. Because what I'm doing the work of God. And Samaritans don't want to hear anything about that. They want to block this in. But he told them, you can't block what God doing. So what that tell me, if God in the plan, no man can stop it. They can try to, but when God is in that plan, it can't be stopped. That's all Nehemiah will tell them. God is in this plan. You have no power against him because you want to destroy this thing. Then I went back to what we said about that plan. Why Nehemiah didn't tell anybody about that? Because if he had told some of the same one with him building the wall right here, they told him, say, hey, Nehemiah, we want to tell you something. They want to assassinate you. When you read the whole thing, he told same people went with him. They were trying to what? Backbite. So it was good he didn't tell them that. And what did they do? They laughed at him. You know, they said, He can't build that wall. No way he gonna build that wall because that wall is already destroyed. But what they didn't know, that the king had gave Nehemiah the stuff he needed to build the wall. They thought he gonna take that stuff there and rebuild it, but God had already in the plan and gave him what he needed. So they laughed at him, but they didn't do any good. He still built that wall. And I looked at it, and after all that, it said, how long did it take him to build that wall? With them trying to stop. He built the wall in 52 days. Out of everything was taking place, he still built that wall in 52 days. Isn't that something? They tried to destroy it. They tried to keep the people from helping him. But he motivated the people to help him. And he still built that wall. It took him 20 years or 21 years to get the temple. Here he comes, 52 days, and he built the wall. Who was in the plan? Nobody but God. When God in the plan, man cannot stop. No matter what they do, no matter how hard they try. If God's there, it's going to work. That's what I like about the God you serve. But I know the God I serve. If he's there, he's going to work things out for us. And Deacon said every time, he may not come when you want him, but what is it? He's always right on time. I'm sick right now. God may not come today, but later on, he's going to show up. You know, that's what the people said. When God show up, what did he do? Show out. How did he show out here? He gave them material. He opened up the man's heart. He gave him a letter. He made him a governor. So what is God doing? God is showing out right here. That's what God does. And there are the questions to follow that. Why is it sometimes difficult to resist the temptation, to respond negatively to ridicule and opposition? Why is it so hard for us to do that? I say we want to do what? We want to let people know who I am. I don't want, hold your head up, Lisa. I want to let you know that I have the power. So that's so hard for us to do. But if you notice in this lesson, here was honor. If you honor yourself and let who take place? Let God handle it. When you take yourself out and put God in, it'll always be successful. That's what I began to read this lesson, and I learned about that there. That's my thought about Nehemiah. Then as I close with Nehemiah, since you have a question, anybody have a question about Nehemiah?
Amen, brother teacher.
Okay.
I think sometimes it's so hard, it's like you say, because we get wrapped up in pride. I got to check, if you say one thing to me, I got to say something back. But we have to humble ourselves and know not everything directly that you require a response. Mm-hmm. You ain't got to respond to every negative thing people say about you. Just don't get in it because some people like drama and they'll fool you in it. Mm-hmm. So sometimes just swallow your pride. And I heard you, but I act like I didn't hear you. It'll be all right because God is going to work it out on my behalf, so I don't even get worried.
That's right. And they told me an empty wagon make a lot of noise. Amen. So I'm saying sometimes our brain be empty. We want to let folks know that I know a little bit, and which I really don't. So I'm gonna make a lot of noise to let somebody know that. That's the world we live in. Preacher.
Then I withdraw my.
Oh.
You withdraw your motion.
Withdraw. Okay. But that's what the world that we live in. We want everybody to know that we know something. Now, as I leave the lesson, I thought about those 52. Something about the 52. It took them 52 days to build that wall. We have 52 Sundays in a year. You have 48 Sundays, then you have 4 fifth Sundays. I believe 48 plus 4 makes 52. And that's not all of them. In the end of this, I thought about it. My wife and I, we were born in 1952. Look at that. So that let me know I'm right there with Nehemiah.